Speaker.
I call Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to spend too long talking about this bill this afternoon, but it is a little bit of a shame that we've got a number of speakers talking this afternoon who obviously haven't been to the previous or spoken at the previous debate, or in fact listened very carefully to what's gone on during the course of this bill as it's worked its way through the House. Look, at the end of the day, this bill is about protecting New Zealand's tax base and making sure that every person pays their fair share of tax. And the underlying theme is that if you are trading residential property, then you shall have to pay tax. Now, I heard one speaker just a moment ago describe it as a capital gains tax. It is not a capital gains tax. It is a reinforcement of existing tax laws, which the best analogy is if you buy and sell shares with a view to making money on them, you will have to pay income tax. And it's exactly the same for this. So, there are a number of exemptions to this bill. Very carefully, as I said, it's focused on residential property. The exemptions are if it relates to your main house, and I'm going to come back to this definition around connection in a minute, inherited property or subject to a matrimonial dispute. And you will note that we've excluded farmland, and we've also excluded land where a business is occupied that may also have a residential component to it. That property would be excluded unless the residential component occupied more than 50% of it. Now, a previous speaker just read out a definition of connection that she had picked up from Ernst & Young. Unfortunately, she should have picked up the preamble to the bill, and I just want to reinforce what this definition of greatest connection means in relation to the main house. And of course, this only becomes pertinent if someone has more than two houses. It only becomes pertinent if someone has more than two houses. And the definition of greatest connection is that we expect factors to include such things as personal property, what's kept,
Could I, excuse me, sorry to interrupt, could you just move to another microphone? There's some static. Continue, but I'll ask those who are controlling the sound if we can. There's some static coming through, please.
Thank you, Mr. Tlyford.
Andrew Bailey.
Thank you. So this greatest connection, where their social ties were strongest, where employment or their business interests were located, and there's a number of these other issues. So it's quite a clear test. Look, as I said before, I don't want to speak too long, but the provision around this bill should also be seen in the light of the bill that's also going to come into play on the 1st of October around the Bright Line test. And there is a third bill that's going to come through to the House, which is also about how we ensure that overseas people make sure that they pay withholding tax, so we can also apply some control around if they do need to pay tax, we have suitable money set aside to be able to meet those legitimate claims that they should be paying for. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a great bill. It's been pragmatic in the way it's been implemented and been applied, and it also, as a final point, meets our money laundering obligations as a country. Thank you, and I commend it to the House.
Yeah.